Welcome back to the Good Stories Podcast, everybody. I'm Jody here with Steven, and today's story starts on a ship in a storm. More than a storm, wild winds and raging seas, and all on board fear for their lives. It is what we'd call a tempest. Today is our first attempt at walking through a Shakespeare play, one of his best and probably my favorite one of them. It really has a little bit of everything: magic and sorcery, political intrigue, a dark-hearted monster, old grudges, and of course, a fool, a jester, cracking jokes and puns at every turn. And maybe why I like this one best, it ends with mercy and forgiveness and some young love to boot. So let's raise the curtain. See what I did there? Time for his story.
Alonso, the king of Naples, is at sea with his lords and son, returning home from the wedding of his daughter to the king of Tunis. They are caught in a terrible storm, and as the ship breaks up, the various persons are washed up on a desert island. This, however, is no accident. The storm was caused by the great magician Prospero, who lives on the island with his daughter Miranda. His daughter is concerned about the fate of the persons on the ship, but Prospero reassures her they are safe, and he has brought them to the island for reasons of his own. Prospero informs her that he was once the rightful Duke of Milan, but the influence of King Alonso he was usurped and banished by his brother Antonio. Only through the kindness of another nobleman, Gonzalo, were they saved from death and brought to this island. Prospero is now using his great magic to bring justice against his usurpers and restore his duchy after his long exile. He is served by a spirit of the air named Ariel, as well as by a deformed slave named Caliban. His retribution is potentially complicated when his daughter falls in love with the king's son. Throughout the play, we follow Prospero as he seeks to restore his title, punish his enemies, reward his followers, and ultimately secure the happiness of his only child.
This one we differ on the name. I say Prospero.
All right. I don't feel strongly, so I will try to adjust to that.
Prospero.
Prospero. Okay, let's see what I can do.
But there are a lot of names that end in O or vowels, just vowels in general. But what do you think? Shakespeare, is he the most well-known author, playwright of all time? I aside from the Bible, I kind of assume yes.
I would assume yes. I cannot come up with another outside of the Bible in the same league. I mean, everybody knows Shakespeare. Certainly when it comes to English literature, he is the touchstone. He's the defining, the quintessence, if you will, of English literature.
Yeah, do you know I got to go to Stratford?
Yes.
Yes.
I've never been. Jody beat me there.
It's Avon. Isn't that strange? Stratford upon Avon. They said we were going. Where? You mean Avon? They did not. But yeah, really cool that just how much is preserved of him and all this. So I did look into him, which I've never done before. I don't know. You probably have read much Shakespeare. I think I've technically read all of them at some point. I dove into the full collection, a decade ago. But it gets to the point they all mush together. So I've technically read them. I remember so little.
They are wonderful. And yeah, I've read a lot of Shakespeare. Do you remember? I can't remember what year it was, but so we grew up in the middle of the woods. So reading was just kind of a thing. And then one summer, I got to live in the Airstream. There was a trailer up behind our house that got to be my little pad for a summer. And in high school, one summer, I decided I was going to really start reading Shakespeare. And so I would read a play a night. I would go to bed at 11. I'd usually finish by about 3, and then I wouldn't get up till afternoon. I don't recommend that in terms of a way of life, but it did let me get through a whole lot of these plays.
Sounds like high school. And we call that tiny homes now. I was like, you had a tiny home way back when, before. But I don't know. If you've read that many, do you have a favorite?
Midsummer Night's Dream is probably my favorite, in part because I performed in it. When I was in college, I got to do a performance of Midsummer Night's Dream, and I've always loved it. High on my list are some of the classics. I love Hamlet. I love Othello. I love Macbeth. Macbeth was the first Shakespeare I read, so that has a special place in my heart. But yeah, I think Midsummer Night's Dream would have to be my favorite.
Macbeth is so sad. I mean, the tragic ones are fully tragic. I mean, it is devastating. But I don't know. There's a lot of ways we could go with this. So Shakespeare, I too love A Midsummer Night's Dream because we did like a radio abridged version of it in, I think, middle school English. It was super fun
Mhm.
where you just had a role, and it's so much better out loud. So the sonnets I have read through, and again, if you read them all back to back to back, if I read them all back to back, they kind of mush together and they lose something. I think they're much better out loud. I think they're much better kind of individually on their own. And they're exceptional when Patrick Stewart reads them to you during COVID lockdown.
Absolutely.
Did you listen to those?
I did.
Oh, they were
He is
so
wonderful.
good. So good. So I assume they're still out there. He did a sonnet a day, just reading them out. And what are there, 140 some?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he's so good at it. Even the words you don't understand, it's like Mrs. Who back in A Wrinkle in Time, where even if you don't get every word, just the feeling of it, he conveys it so well. So,
And
all
his
good.
love for them is so deep that his love for them just comes across, and he is moved by them when he reads them. And what a genius. And one of the things you've probably heard already is that a lot of what we love about this is not reading these. It's that they're spoken, that they're seen, that they're performed, that they're participated in. And this is what I think a lot of people get blocked on when it comes to Shakespeare. Because in their mind, Shakespeare is this great literary genius that smart people read. And so therefore I have to read him. They read it, don't get it, it's confusing, and they just move on. Shakespeare is best not read, it is best watched, it is best experienced. When you read a Shakespeare play, you are reading a script of a play. To actually experience it, you need the actors, you need the performance, you need to see it in front of you, and it really brings it to life. Now, once you've done that, I think it's easier to go back and read through the scripts and get something out of it. But yeah, Shakespeare at his best should always be watched.
Yeah, I was there way back when you were in A Midsummer Night's Dream playing Oberon, King of the Fairies, yes?
Yes.
The hat was extreme. I don't know who did the wardrobe, but it was memorable.
Do you know the story of that hat?
I don't remember.
That was actually a Las Vegas stripper hat.
And
Yeah.
they just thought that fit
Somehow it
the
worked.
vibe.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
like it was like an Egyptian, crown with it was
Yeah, it had
a
like
lot
a
of sequins.
dongle thing off the top. It was uncomfortable looking. He doesn't seem that flamboyant to me, Oberon, but I don't know. You did a good job.
Well, thank you.
I remember. So I saw something today and I had to tell you about it. I learned the past tense of William Shakespeare. And this is better if you could read this one, but it says, would I was Shakespeared. Because it's will I am Shakespeare. I thought it was really hilarious. Would I was Shakespeared.
I like it.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. So I've learned that there's debates about Shakespeare. Again, I was there in what they think is his childhood home, and it's all rigged out, for the time period. And there was a little bit about contention about who he was and all these things. I didn't know people like to talk about it so much, though. It's a thing.
Yeah, people love a good conspiracy. I lump this into the whole earth is flat kind of thing. There are people out there who passionately believe it, will argue it deeply, but I think most of it's pretty much nonsense. So Shakespeare, I think, wrote Shakespeare, but yeah, Marlowe is usually the one that gets offered as the most common real writer of Shakespeare.
Well, I mean, and there's a spectrum. So the idea is the vast extent of what he wrote and the background and the vocabulary and just the knowledge base would have been difficult for someone with his background in education. So maybe it was this rich guy who went by this other name. I don't know. Marlowe and a couple others, it seems like they were collaborators. Okay, I could see that. I have no issue with it.
Yeah, well, and collaboration was definitely something I think he did.
Mhm.
Reading through some background on The Tempest, it is generally recognized to be one of his later plays he did, and many people, or much of what I came across, stated it was probably the last play he wrote all by himself, where he was the primary author. And even that, the indication is then that there were other plays that he co-wrote with people and collaborated with. So yeah, I've got no problem with collaboration. Theater by its nature is a collaborative effort, so
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, agreed. The other argument that I read is that he never has a consistent voice. across his plays, or especially in his sonnets, because sonnets are love poems, right? Typically, such a thing would be somewhat personal. So I got a quote, because there are so many things written on Shakespeare, essays and assessments, and I mean, just tons of them. So I read a bunch recently, and everybody kind of picks their flavor. But I really like this one, talking about his lack of his own voice, even in the sonnets. So Anthony Burgess, I understand he wrote The Clockwork Orange. He was in an interview, and somebody's like, well, you say. He's like, no, I don't say. My character says. This is a quote. He says, I imagine Shakespeare making the same riposte. Saying the same thing.
Yeah.
No, it's not me. It's a character. It's a persona. And whoever he was definitely amazing at that.
Yes.
Writing in character and such different flavors of characters.
I know that during his career, he really annoyed a lot of the other playwrights of the time. What was the group? I think they called themselves the Wits or something like that. These were college-educated playwrights, and they just couldn't stand that Shakespeare was successful. Like this bumpkin who didn't have their learning, their training. Shakespeare, legendarily, the quote is he knew no Greek and less Latin. And that was like a big insult at the time. And so these wits, these kind of hoity-toity playwrights, it just drove them nuts that he was as successful as he was.
Why are you so good? Oh.
Yeah.
So the other one, as part of just the debate and discussion around Shakespeare, was his word count. This is new to me. There is technical studies have been done on the number of words either expressed or known by Shakespeare compared to Joe Schmo, common man, both then and now. I mean, extensive analysis. It is deep. But there's a broad spectrum of results, as you might assume. I mean, we're talking about like nth degree analytical processes applied to this thing. So they count all the words like in Shakespeare or in the Bible, and they make these comparisons about the number of different words expressed. So the idea is Shakespeare knew between 15,000 to 30,000 words.
Okay, that seems like a lot.
It does. And he made up a bunch too.
That I did know.
Yeah. Well, and authors do. I mean, we just did LMNOP. It's commendable, and I think it just happens even in conversation, let alone writing. You make up words.
We did that whole conversation with Rudyard Kipling. You came up with all those words he had invented and came up with too.
Yeah, totally. So I think it's 30,000 kind of expressed words, and compared to between 3,000 to 5,000 for like an average guy. So that's a big difference. The support of it, I'll say, is all of Milton. The works of Milton is about 8,000. All of the Old Testament words expressed under 6,000. So Shakespeare's just extensiveness for making up words. I mean, definitely breadth, right? It's big. But I like this quote from one of these essays. Somebody's talking about, well, what do you mean by word count?
Yeah.
When Edgar calls Oswald in King Lear a base, proud, shallow, beggarly, three-suited, 100-pound, filthy, worsted, stalking knave. How many words is that? I mean, it could be 12 if you don't hyphenate anything, but it just goes down from there. You know, if filthy, worsted, stalking is all hyphenated, then we're down to 10 already. So it varies a lot, and there's also variations in the words. So Greek and Latin, but also Italian, a lot of Italian translation, French words thrown in, and just the breadth of settings and themes and characters that he wrote on. I mean, it's long. But he wrote, I mean, historical plays, right? And talking between dukes and kings. And here's a quote, true nobility is exempt from fear. Do you know what it's from? It's okay if you don't. There's
I'm
so
going to
many.
guess Julius Caesar.
Henry VI, I think.
Nope, didn't get it.
But there's also, street comedy where they're like bickering in the streets. And so, peace, ye fat guts, has a little bit different flavor, right? It's going to have different words. Or like this one. This one's from Coriolanus. More of your conversation would infect my brain. So it's like street insults in the time of Shakespeare. But then there's also love stories. And I mean, there's so many love quotes. I picked this one. Love comforts like sunshine after rain. It's from one of his poems. Or this one, a heaven on earth I have won by wooing thee. And that's all's well that ends well. It's just each type of phrase and the different settings, they're so different. The other one I put in here is a bucket. as its own bucket is anguish and grief, or,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you call Hamlet? Mental anxiety, torture. I mean, the guy is racked in his mind.
All of the above.
Yeah, so this is this is from Macbeth, that someone should give sorrow words. The grief that does not speak knits up the overwrought heart and bids it break.
Yeah.
So each of these would be so many more words when you're adding to that count. You know, each play that's set somewhere different, it would have different words. So I don't know. Either way, the guy wrote extensively with such variety, and it is admirable for sure.
And the words are just beautiful. I mean, we're going to try and avoid again just reading this whole thing today. We are doing a review of this, summary, if you will, but you just want to lean into some of the words to just let that roll around in your ears and your brain. I mean, so many of the ones that you just said, I want to just think about for a while.
Like peace, ye fat guts.
Like peace, ye fat guts. So many phrases from Shakespeare I find will just like flit through my head at various times. I just think about them. They just roll tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. I mean, these things just slide in there. And it's wonderful. I mean, the genius of him is incredible. And the other cool thing I think about Shakespeare is, again, the genius doesn't stop with him, because we were talking about Patrick Stewart. The people that love Shakespeare are geniuses in their own right. And it becomes this additive or almost multiplicative thing where you get to see genius piled upon genius and passion piled upon passion. And it's just fantastic. I have vivid memories of being in college. I hung out with a bunch of theater folk, and one day I went into one of their rooms and they were watching a seminar that had been recorded in, I don't know, like the 70s by the Royal Shakespeare Company. And it had a very young Patrick Stewart, a very young Ian McKellen, Judi Dench, Ben Kingsley, these incredible actors that all got their start with Shakespeare. And they would just do scenes. They would talk about their process. I mean, watching Ian McKellen do scenes from Macbeth, I mean, just monologues, brief monologues, it's stuck in my brain ever since. It was just powerful and moving. And so not only do you have the genius of Shakespeare, the brilliance of the words, you also have the genius of the performers.
Yeah, Judi Dench, I saw just a clip of her on a show, and the guy asked her, "Do you have Shakespeare in your head?" She said, "Oh, yeah." And he just said, "Do some." And she just pulled out a sonnet, and it was moving. I couldn't even tell you the exact words or which sonnet it was, just her pulling it out, and clearly it means something to her. And she is such an artist doing it. It was wonderful.
I watched one scene, and again, this is just no one's in costume. They're just doing bits. They're just rehearsing and talking about their process. And I don't remember what play it was from. I don't remember all the lines, but it was Ben Kingsley and some other actor. And this other actor had a really pretty long monologue. He talked a lot, and I don't remember what he was saying, but Ben Kingsley was just listening to him and just watching Kingsley listen. And then his line at the end was, I remember this. It was, "I was moved withal."
Mm.
That was it. That was his only line. But I remember it decades later because it was so good. And again, you won't get this reading the text because you can't get his face. You can't get the way he was watching this other speaker, and you can't get the emotion with which he was delivering that line. So again, I love reading Shakespeare. I think everyone should read Shakespeare, but I really think everyone should watch Shakespeare.
Yeah, I have been fortunate, blessed to watch many stage performances of different things. Some Shakespeare, but many other, all kinds. I mean, we grew up just fortunate enough, our grandma bought us tickets to the local theater. Regularly, we go as a family when we were there, and I've seen dozens of those, plus other performances, you know, some better, some worse. But it is an entirely different thing. It's an entirely different experience. And yeah, some are bad. But even those you can enjoy.
Yeah.
I do think it's a really interesting thing to watch someone perform, because one, just the effort to memorize the lines, let alone how you present them in front of a crowd. I mean, most people don't like to speak in front of a crowd. So that in itself is a talent. So anyway, getting kind of nerdy about just theater things in general. What was your favorite play at the Playhouse? Do you remember?
Harvey.
Oh, that was good.
I never saw Shakespeare at the Playhouse. You maybe have seen more Shakespeare than I have, but Harvey is. I love the movie. Jimmy Stewart. It's so wonderful. The woman who plays Theta in the movie is just so good. But they did a really good job with the play too. So that was my favorite Playhouse performance.
So Shakespeare did and is credited with creating all kinds of words that just did not exist before he put them into these plays. And I do have a kind of a short list of ones that surprised me. And this is from the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust. So I'm going to go with what they say about if these are his or not. But the word bedroom. And it's quoted from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Bedroom was not phrased in that way, described in that way prior to Shakespeare.
Wow.
Interesting. Downstairs. Gossip. Hurry. Like hurry up. Kissing. Which that one surprised me. I wonder if it's just the phrasing of it. I don't know. There's not a reason with these. So I'm just reading from a list, people. But lonely. Nervy, which is a funny one. I don't know that I ever use the word nervy.
I'm going to now.
Puppy. Which
Really?
is funny. Yeah. Rant. And then there's some phrases, and these like the tomorrow and tomorrow, the we have seen better days or too much of a good thing. Those are both from As You Like It. Neither rhyme nor reason or not sleeping a wink. It's Greek to me.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar, right?
Yeah. That one I know.
Foregone conclusion. That's from Othello. To wear your heart upon your sleeve.
Yes.
That one I would have guessed.
Yes.
All that glitters isn't gold.
Oh.
Not to quiz you too hard. Do you have a guess what that one's from?
No.
It's The Merchant of Venice.
Oh, okay.
So I've not seen that one live, but I did see the movie. It came out when I was in college, and we got to go see it at a really cool theater. So they almost made it like a play, even though it was a movie. And it was good. I do think these are better on a stage. But they did a good job. The World's My Oyster.
Yeah.
Wild Goose Chase. And Breaking the Ice. Those are the ones all from here.
Breaking the Ice. I would, well, many of those I would not have guessed.
So I have more on Shakespeare, but we can move on if you want.
No, we're talking about Shakespeare.
Talking about the Bard. I've never looked into him, and there's so much to him. So this is news to me. There's a category of people who call themselves bardolaters. Like an idolater, but regarding the Bard.
Okay.
He is the Bard. I mean, the capital B. Bardolaters. And so he is buried at Trinity Church in Stratford. And I've been to the cemetery. It's really interesting. I didn't know before we went. Some people think that he wrote his own epitaph.
I've heard that. I've seen the epitaph.
Do you know what it
pictures
says?
of it. I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, so I don't mean to quiz you. It's more like...
No, you are welcome to quiz me, and I will confess my ignorance. So go on.
Well, I didn't know before I wrote it down. So I mean, I saw it, but I couldn't just relay it to you. But here it is. Good friend, for Jesus' sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man who spares these stones, and cursed be he who moves my bones.
Yeah.
I think it's a funny epitaph. Was he worried?
Man.
Was he worried about it? I don't know.
Potentially, yeah.
So with that, I was looking up why they think he wrote this versus anybody else. And this is from an article from the Hudson Review that I think is crazy interesting. So there was a formula to epitaphs. And they're throwing this all the way back to Isaac's deathbed in Genesis in the Bible, where it's a blessing and then it's a curse. He flips it around. So he flips it around so that the quatrain, the heaviest emphasis is on the curse at the end. And I don't know if that's just literary analysis or if someone as experienced as Shakespeare would, have that conscious thought, like, I'm going to flip that around. It's also paired with a blessing from what's called the Horatian formula. I did not know that's a thing. And it says it's echoed in the Vulgate. And I mean, there's just all these parallels they make about these different epitaphs. And finally, they go to Ulysses and say, happy the man who, like Ulysses, has made a beautiful journey. And I don't get the parallels there because that one seems way more positive. But I think it's some mix of a blessing and a curse from these other things. And they're kind of pushed together in this short epitaph. And so this one says, closer to Shakespeare and a possible influence on his own epitaph is the conclusion to George Peele's His golden locks time hath to silver turned. His hair has turned gray, from gold to gray. And this was published in 1590, so more in his time period, like he might have been likely to read it.
Yeah. So Shakespeare's dates are 1564 to 1660. So that's the time period we're talking about for him.
Yeah, so that would have been inside his lifetime. Blessed be the hearts that wish my sovereign well. Cursed be the souls that think her any wrong. Goddess, allow this aged man his right to be your beadsman now that was your knight.
Hmm.
I think that's very lovely.
I do too.
Blessing his lady even in death.
Yeah.
I think that's great. So they also compared it to this poem called The Phoenix and the Turtle that I had not heard of. It's one of Shakespeare's poems.
Okay.
And it says, beauty, truth, and rarity, grace and all sincerity, here enclosed in cinders lie. Death is now the phoenix's nest, and the turtle's loyal breast to eternity doth rest, leaving no posterity. Posterity. But in that, I think the phoenix's the phoenix's nest, that is representation of death.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, a phoenix, what do you know what a phoenix? They are reborn from the ashes. Yes. And then the turtle dove, that's what the turtle's loyal breast, that would be the eternal rest. And that's why there's no posterity for the turtle dove. Mm-hmm. It is at rest at last. I don't know if any of it's true or the parallel or not. I just love that people are thinking through these things and making these insights and crossovers between them.
And that's the depth of it. I mean, you can do that with you can open Shakespeare to just about any line and come up with something that makes you think of something else. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the genius to it. One of the reasons that I'm excited to do The Tempest first, why I think this is a good first Shakespeare to go into, is I think that this is an easy way to get into Shakespeare. This is a play that Shakespeare wrote towards the end of his corpus, and so that means that he's very developed in it. He kind of knows what he's doing, and so that's useful. This play has a very easy to follow story. There's good guys and bad guys, and it comes out with a happy ending, and so I like that component to it. The other thing I like about this play is this has actually more stage directions than all the other plays I've read of Shakespeare. Written within it are these guidances on how the play is to be performed, and you don't always get that. In a lot of the others, it's really pretty wide open, which means different performances can be very different. But this one, as a reader, that helps guide you through it, which is a useful tool. For anyone coming to Shakespeare reading it for the first time, I think there are a couple hints I can give that will help you read through it and sort of understand it a little better. So every Shakespeare play that I can remember has 5 acts. There may be a couple exceptions to that, but pretty much you're going to get 5 acts. Acts you can think of like the overarching chapters of the play. So usually you're going to get within the acts several scenes, between 1 and like 7 scenes in each act. So when people are talking and referencing Shakespeare, like in the Bible where we go chapter and verse, with Shakespeare we talk the act and the scene, and then after that the line number. So scenes are also a chance for the scenery to be changed. So that's usually when the scenes or the acts change, when they need a different backdrop or the characters are moving to a different location. And in The Tempest, there's actually several of these acts only have 1 scene. So again, it's very doable. It's very short in that way. There's a couple other guidance that will be put within the text itself that I didn't know when I first started reading Shakespeare, so this may be helpful to you. One is the term aside. You will see often in italics or parentheses the word aside after a speech or before a speech. That means that the actor is talking to himself or to the audience. So nobody else on stage can hear it. No matter how loudly the actor is talking, no matter how much he's giving away everything that these other people shouldn't hear, just the fact that it's an aside means that we know in this play that nobody else is meant to hear it. It's just the actor. The other thing that's useful is the term exit and exeunt. This was very confusing to me when I started to read, because obviously it meant people are leaving the stage, but why would they use 2 different words? And they would use both. Exit just means a single person leaving. It's from the Latin, where when you conjugate the verb, you end it in a T, that becomes a third person singular. So exit is he is leaving. Exeunt is third person plural, which means they are leaving. So as you're reading through it, if you see exeunt, there will often be more than 1 character leaving at that time. If you see exit, there will be 1 character. The other term you'll see is exeunt omnes. So omnes is all, so that means they are all leaving, which means the stage is going to be totally empty after that particular direction. So these were just a couple little pointers that might help you read and understand Shakespeare a little better as you go through him.
I love that. I did not know that. I mean, I kind of deduced, oh, people are leaving. Okay, you kind of figure out who's there from who shows up in the next scene. But no, you got me. I have never been in a real play. My 7th grade radio production did not count, I think. So I did not know about Exeunt. When do you think they added intermissions to plays?
Ooh, boy, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to it.
I just thought of it right now because I remember as a kid being surprised, like, oh, we get a break. So we're in the middle. The 5 acts. I don't know if it was true in Shakespeare's time that you get a break, but you do in play, like every play I've ever been to, they do kind of more than half. You can kind of count on it. The second half's going to be shorter than the first.
Yep.
But there's going to be an intermission.
And it usually stops at a cliffhanger of some kind, right?
Yep.
This big moment. Usually with the Shakespeares I've been to, it ends after Act 3. And then Act 4 and 5 are kind of the follow-up. Yeah, I have no idea whether that was done in Shakespeare's time. I mean, in the modern world, I think one of the biggest reasons they do it is to sell concessions.
Yeah, great plan. And a big costume change, typically.
Yep, that's true. And big scene change. But yeah, I have no idea if they did that in Shakespeare's time.
Well, I just want because it's a good point that it is very specific in this where people are when they're coming and going, because that is not always true. But there's not a break in the middle called out. So I was just curious. No big deal. I did read that they think the inspiration, Shakespeare's inspiration for The Tempest was from a real shipwreck. So this big storm, the ship was, wrecked on this island, but they think it's from a true repertory of the wrack and redemption of Sir Thomas Gates' Knight. It's a very long title, but it was written up in something called the Sea Venture around the island of Bermuda, or the shipwreck, I think, was on the island of Bermuda in that, written in 1609. So again, in the right ballpark, time frame wise. So maybe, who knows? Yeah, his swan song is how I had this noted down, because it is the thought that this is the last one he did on his own. And there is a goodbye at the end, which we'll talk about it later. One more thing. Shakespeare has an impact on so many things and so many people, and he's been around hundreds of years now. It even had an impact on astronomy. So at least a third of the moons of the planet Uranus are named after characters from the play.
You know which moon is not named after a character of the play? Ariel.
No way.
The name Ariel of the moon that's named for it actually comes from another poem. I read that somewhere yesterday as I was prepping for this.
That's confusing, although it's not listed here. Yeah, Miranda, Caliban, Sycorax, Prospero, however you say it, Setebo, Stefano, Trinculo, Francisco, and Ferdinand are all Uranian moon, not Ariel, because it is a moon of, it is a character, but that's needlessly confusing.
I agree. I think that's why it stuck out to me when I read it.
What?
I don't actually know if that's true, but I read it, so I choose to believe it.
Okay, there is also a poem by a man named W.H. Auden that's called The Sea and the Mirror, that's written basically like a rebuttal from the characters of The Tempest. He writes in their voice, and I did enjoy some of that. If somebody wanted to look it up, who is our bardolater, I thought it was really great. It's called The Sea and the Mirror, and there's some really beautiful poetry in it. I have not read the whole thing, but worth looking up if you are into such things. Do you want to get started for reels?
Oh, I think we're starting for reels already. Anything. Yeah, this is great. I think it's helpful to kind of position this geographically. So the King of Naples is a major character in this, and Naples is southern Italy, right across the sea from North Africa. And so Tunis is North Africa. And as we get through this boat is going back to Naples from Tunis. So we're talking southern Mediterranean here. And it starts with a tempest, a storm, and it is just off the hook. Things are going wild, but in such a very Shakespeare way. This opens up by these conversations and back and forth between the sailors on the ship and the nobles on this boat, and the nobles are just getting in the way.
I like the master says, fall to it yearly, or we run ourselves aground. Like, this is serious. They're in danger, life and limb here. And yeah, the king and basically his dukes, his son, They just show up and they're giving them grief while these men on this boat are trying to keep them alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, they're talking to the bosun. So it's spelled boatswain, but it's bosun is the way we pronounce that now. And they keep bugging him, and he's trying to keep the boat afloat, and he keeps talking back. And they say to him, "Nay, good, be patient, right? Stop, listen to us." And his response is, "When the sea is, he won't be patient till the sea is. Hence, what cares these roarers for the name of the king?" So the waves don't care that there's a king on board. The sea, the tempest doesn't care that these are lords on board. The sailors have a job to do, and they are trying to do it to save their lives and the lives of everybody there.
Yeah, do you want to just do like 15 to 30? You can
Yes.
pick your role.
I'll let you pick.
Do you want to be pretentious or frustrated?
Well, I can be either.
Let's just read it, because as you say, it's better when you can hear it. And so that's the gist of it. But Stephen can be Gonzalo, who comes up again later in the play. But he is what? The minister, a duke of the king? Is that right?
Yeah, he's a nobleman attached to the king of Naples court.
Yeah, if we're talking about plays, what's really nice is at the beginning of each play, they put all the characters and kind of who they are. So I just flip back. Gonzalo, an honest old counselor. And there are many names in this that start with A.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to flip back to figure out who they were. So don't feel bad. We're with you, and we'll get through it together. But Stephen is an honest old counselor, and I'm the cranky bosun.
Okay, here we go. "Nay, good, be patient.
When the sea is hence, what cares these roars for the name of king? To cabin, silence, trouble us not.
Good, yet remember whom thou hast aboard."
None that I more love than myself. You are a counselor. If you can command these elements to silence and work the peace of the present, we will not hand a rope more. Use your authority. If you cannot, give thanks you have lived so long, and make yourself ready in your cabin for the mischance of the hour, if it so hap. Cheerly, good hearts, out of our way, I say.
"I have great comfort from this fellow. Methinks he hath no drowning mark upon him. His complexion is perfect gallows. Stand fast, good fate, to his hanging. Make the rope of his destiny out cable, for our own doth little advantage. If he be not born to be hanged, our case is miserable." So I love it. Gonzalo says basically that this guy's not going to die at the sea because he's so impudent to the nobles. Surely his doom is to be hanged.
It's funny, he finds comfort in it. Like, we're all good. He's going to live. We're going to live. He'll die later.
It's so great. But they are not all good. And in this short scene with the waves roaring and the winds blowing, the ship breaks up.
Yeah, the mariners. So that's all the men working on the ship. They cry out, all lost, to prayers, all lost.
Mm.
And then it says, exuent. They all are off the boat.
Yep. "Mercy on us. We split. We split. Farewell, my wife and children. Farewell, brother. We split. We split. We split." The boat is literally breaking to pieces underneath them. Sudden scene change. No longer the storm, no longer the sea. We are now on the island with the magician, the sorcerer, Prospero. And there he is, and he is in appropriate garb. So as we go through this, we see him as a white magician, right? A white sorcerer, a man of incredible power and wisdom and learning. But he has some of the props of his office. He has the magical staff. Most of us remember from Gandalf. That's very important. He also has the mantle. He has the mantle of a wizard. So a mantle is like a cape, a shoulder garb, a drape that's on you. And this goes back, way, way back. I mean, even talking about like Old Testament prophets, right? When Elijah was going to be taken up by God in the whirlwind, Elisha asked for his mantle to pass upon him, a double portion of his spirit. And it does. And as Elisha is leaving from Elijah going up into heaven, he uses the mantle to strike the water and cross upon it on dry ground. And so the idea of this mystical or spiritual power is a very, very old trope, and we see that very clearly in this magician on the island.
I like that you use like 5 words for this, but not the one I wrote down, which is ropes. It's a magic robe
It's a
that he's
better word.
wearing.
Better word.
Not better, just different. One of the commentaries I read is by a guy named Stephen Greenblatt, who I don't know otherwise, but I really enjoyed the commentary. Is he said that the role of a playwright, anyone who writes plays, they are a princely creator of anxiety. And I think that's what you see both in scene one, where suddenly we're in this storm. I mean, it's a very sudden beginning where they're fighting and the ship is breaking apart, and even in that there's factions. He builds an anxiety among these men from the beginning, and here meeting Prospero, he's standing there in my mind very grand with these robes and this staff. He's creating this storm. I mean, there is tension and anxiety. He is summoning a storm.
And I've always just loved the idea of the wizard. Merlin has always been one of my favorites. I mean, I don't want to meet someone who can do this.
Sure.
But in literature, I love it. This man of great power and learning. And he's doing this. And we meet Prospero here. We also meet his daughter, Miranda. And there's a very different view between the two of them, because Prospero is standing there in power, right, causing this to happen. But Miranda is worried. She is worried about the people on the boat.
Yeah, her first line is, "If by your art, my dearest father, you have put these wild waters into this roar, allay them." She's asking him to stop this. It's not good. And it actually hurts her heart. She is a very sensitive, pure character throughout this. And so she always loves her father. She doesn't question her father, but she does push back a little bit.
Yeah, and her father comes across, frankly, as pretty prickly, pretty grumpy. I mean, there are times you wonder, is this a good guy or not? I think ultimately he is, but there's definitely debate about that, and people have read this in very different ways, and he can be played in very different ways. But his response to her is reassuring. Be collected, no more amazement. Tell your piteous heart there's no harm done.
But she's still sad, and he says, "No harm. I have done nothing but care of thee." Then this is actually an intimate scene where he says, "Oh, my dear one, thee, my daughter." He calls her ignorant, which is not nice. But what he means, again, this is Shakespeare. I actually read one guy who said that it's hard for people to read Shakespeare now because the words have changed so much, the meaning of the words. He calls her ignorant because she doesn't know their story. So it's just the two of them, their family, alone on this island. And she doesn't know their story, why they're even there.
Yeah, this is where he tells her. And he takes off his garments of power at this point. He actually has Miranda take off his cloak. And again, that's in the scene instructions, which we don't get that detailed in a lot of other of Shakespeare's plays. And I love that he refers to it as "lie there my art." So this is an art. It's a craft he knows. And that cloak of power is part of his art. But he puts it aside because he's about to share with Miranda secrets. He's about to share their past.
Yeah, he tells her to wipe her eyes and have comfort. And I think this is where he asks her if she remembers anything before they came to the island. Because what is she, 15 or so?
Yeah, we learned that they've been on the island for 12 years, and she was very young when they left. So she's teenage girl. So yeah, probably around 15, I would guess.
And he's surprised because she says, "Certainly, sir, I can."
What?
How? But I actually really like this as a feeling, as an idea, because if you think back to your earliest memories, you know, they're not exactly clear, but you get a flavor. Right? There's an image, like a vague image of a person or a color or something. Here, she has this memory of women taking care of her. There are no women on this island, let alone them taking care of her. But she remembers.
That is another thing about this book, is that there's really only one woman.
Yes.
Yeah, mortal women. There are some spirits and fairies and things like that, but one mortal woman, which is a low number.
I don't think that's super uncommon for a Shakespeare play, though. Sometimes there's a nurse or something. I was thinking Romeo and Juliet.
Sure.
Unless it's called The Merry Wives of Windsor, there aren't very many women. Maybe a queen. I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah. But she says, "Yes, my remembrance warrants. Had I not 4 or 5 women once that attended me?" And he says, "Yes, but how do you remember?"
Yeah.
I'm trying to summarize this, but again, it's so good just to read. Everybody should go buy 2 copies so that you can just sit with somebody and read it back and forth. It's wonderful.
Totally worth doing. But we will try and refrain. he tells her that he was the Duke of Milan. She didn't know that before that, but I love the way that, okay, I lied. We're going to read more. He says, thy father was the Duke of Milan and a prince of power. And she interrupts him and says, sir, are not you my father?
Wait, what? Back up here. And like, no, it is me.
And then the line is great. Thy mother was a piece of virtue, and she said thou wast my daughter, and thy father was Duke of Milan, and his only heir and princess no worse issued.
So yes, I'm your dad.
Yeah, at least your mom said so.
We're going with it. But did she die? I don't know if it's not. Okay.
Yeah, she died before all this. Prospero tells her that he was a duke, and he tells her about kind of the tragedy of where they're at. They have been banished. So he was a duke. The king of Naples, yes, we've already met him on the ship. The king of Naples was his enemy. And the king of Naples induced the brother of Prospero, Antonio, to usurp him, to kick him out. What we learn from some of this, or what I get out of it, is that Prospero was beloved by his people, but frankly wasn't a very good duke. He cared more about learning. Learning was what he loved. He refers to them as the liberal arts. This is, you see, where he got his penchant for magic. He loved learning, and he gave the care of the kingdom essentially into his brother's hands. Well, his brother then, through the influencing of the king, took it over and threw him out. Miranda very naturally asked, well, why are we alive? Why didn't they kill us when this happened? And he says, because of the goodness of Gonzalo. And we've met Gonzalo already, too. He happens to be on the boat. Gonzalo, rather than killing them, put them on a ship, gave them his books, gave them food and drink, set them afloat, and they landed on this desert island. And this is where they have been for the last 12 years.
I actually love how they go back and forth because you learn something about, especially Miranda's character, just from her little one-liners. Like the Ben Kingsley, where you saw his face in his one line, because Prospero's talking to her and telling this long story about how they've been there and they were betrayed, but this counselor did help them, and the honest, good counselor. But he asks Miranda all the time, like, are you still listening? She's like, oh, good sir, I do. Your tale, sir, would cure deafness. Yeah. Like, she is attentively listening. And she is very sweet.
Yeah. She listens until she falls asleep. But that might be a magic sleep. It's hard to tell.
It seems like it is, even though he laid off his robe, his art. It seems unlikely that she would fall asleep after such a tale.
Yeah, I don't think all the power is in the robe. I think there's a lot of power in this man himself. So while she's sleeping, a new character shows up. And who do we meet here?
A spirit of the air.
I love this. Ariel is a wonderful spirit. Ariel is very much his servant, his aide, his guide, and it's almost like full genie mode what Ariel can do. He has but to ask, and Ariel accomplishes all this stuff. Ariel is a bright spirit, a light spirit, reminds me very much of, well, you know, the genie in the Disney Aladdin, or Puck. This is very much a spirit after the nature of Robin Goodfellow in Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, much is done through music and like enticing people to certain places on the island. And it does seem like there's some mystery and strangeness to this island as we're here longer. There are definitely pockets of high strangeness.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Ariel shows up, and here's where we learn Ariel's backstory.
Yeah.
So Ariel is Prospero's servant and has been bound to him, but he was saved by Prospero. This is the quote from A Wrinkle in Time.
Yes.
Where Ariel had been bound by an evil witch into a cloven pine, bound in a wood tree prison. And Prospero has some magic of his own, and he helped him escape. And so he has been his bondservant, really, since that time. But the witch, what's her name?
Sycorax.
Sycorax.
One is just a wonderful name.
It is.
That's fun to say. It sounds evil. Sycorax. The other reason I love this name especially is going back to Doctor Who. Dave Tennant, the 10th Doctor, in his first episode after regenerating in the Christmas episode, the Sycorax are the alien people who come to invade the Earth that he has to fight against to save the planet. So I watched it again 2 nights ago, and it just made me smile because the Sycorax. But in this case, the Sycorax is a name, and it's the name of the witch.
So he does defeat this witch,
Mhm.
but she had a son. It's like Grendel and Grendel's mom. Hey.
Yeah.
So Grendel's mom dies first in this one.
Yeah. Inversion.
Version, that's
Twisting
right.
is what brilliant people do.
But here, this part is where I wasn't sure if Prospero was a good guy. I mean, he does have nobility, he does have power, but he is rather severe to Ariel and
Mhm.
says, "You will do my bidding. You have no option, or I will re-imprison you in that tree."
Yeah, he's harsh because Ariel is asking to be released, and not only asking, but saying, you promised to set me free. And Prospero comes really hard on here and feels obligated to remind him of the services he did in freeing Ariel from the tree. And yeah, especially in reading it, Prospero doesn't come off as a nice guy.
Maybe it's a plot device, truly, so that there's a reason to go through the backstory for Ariel. So we learn about who he is and just the reason why he would even serve this master.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they have this conversation that says, that ends where he says, "You know what? I will free you. Do my bidding now, but time is almost up." And this is an interesting part of this story that you start at the end, right? We're looking backwards through most of it. We have to learn all this story that's already happened,
Mhm.
from Prospero's betrayal and then being on this island and why the ship is on the water anyway and how he has his power and Ariel's backstory. So we're jumping in at the end. We're
Yeah.
near the finish already. That's where this story begins. It's kind of fun. It's a fun, different way to start a story.
If you want to learn a new literary term,
I
people
do.
that you may not have heard, I bet you know this. In media res.
No, I did not. Tell me.
It means in the middle of things. And this is, again, a very classic way to start a story. The one I'm thinking about is the Odyssey. The Odyssey very classically starts in media res, where Odysseus is already most of the way through his journey, washed up and is found by the king's daughter. This is a way of just throwing you into the action immediately, but then you have to do this kind of background, where you learn the background over as the book progresses. So we talked about Ariel, the one servant of Prospero. He has another servant, though, who is not nearly as cheerful. And this is the deformed Caliban.
First, he wakes up his daughter, which is funny. Like, why? But she says, "The strangeness of your story put heaviness in me, put sleep in me." But he wakes her up awake and says, "Okay, we'll visit Caliban, my slave, who never yields us kind answer." Caliban never speaks to them kindly. And yet somehow, some reason, Miranda had to be there for that interview. And she says here, maybe again, this is another plot device. So we learn she does not like she is not comfortable around Caliban. We learn he has learned words and story and much good from Prospero.
He talks about how Prospero found him and raised him gently and kindly. Not only taught him, but fed him. He says, put berries in my water, right? Gave me the sweet thing to drink and eat. And he really seems to have taken him to heart and really tried to raise him up well. But then that all changes.
Yeah, he attacks Miranda. He physically tries to rape her. So fair enough. Prospero doesn't treat him as well after that. It's pretty dark. His mom is a evil witch by definition. And so now he becomes this slave where he fetches wood and does very menial tasks for them. But he's still on the island.
Yeah, he does an aside here. This is Caliban. I must obey. His art is of such power. This isn't willing. He is enthralled to this man. But again, this man has turned on him because of the actions of Caliban. Because Caliban, he doesn't even apologize for the attempted rape. He kind of laughs and says, "Oh yeah, I wish that had worked."
He says, "You prevented me. If else I had peopled this isle with Calibans." I mean, that's pretty dark. They make him very clearly bad guy.
Very much so.
And so Prospero sends him off to fetch fuel and keep them warm.
I think it's during this scene, too, that we learn that Prospero has power of tormenting Caliban. Beyond just making him work, making him do servile things, he has the ability to give him pinches, which seem to be essentially Prospero setting these other spirits upon him that kind of eat him from the inside, cause horrible cramping and pain throughout the night or whenever this is set upon him. This is going to come up again later with some of the other characters, but Prospero has this power of torment, and he has used it on Caliban.
Yeah, so this is where Caliban exits. And suddenly enter Ferdinand, and Ariel invisible, playing and singing. So his servant fairy comes back, and as well, Ferdinand is the son of the King of Naples. So he never knew the Duke back then. He would have been a child, just like Miranda.
Mm-hmm.
But here he is on this island, and he's following this beautiful music.
Yeah. And he's by himself, and he believes his father is dead. As far as he knows, everybody else on the ship is dead. But this music is ethereal and of fairy and just wonderful. And then what does he see but a beautiful young woman? And what does the beautiful woman see but a handsome young prince? Literally a prince.
Literally. Ariel's song that he entices Ferdinand with is sad.
Yeah.
It says, "Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made." He's singing to him about the death and rest of Ferdinand's father at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, it's fairly tragic, but yes, this young, beautiful girl gives him great comfort.
Yeah.
The sight of her.
And the other way around too. What does Miranda say here? "I might call him a thing divine, for nothing natural I ever saw so noble."
Prospero does an aside though, where he's happy that these two hit it off at first sight, but he does test them, which is a little manipulative. But I mean, the man is a wizard, so it kind of fits.
It does not pay to meddle in the affairs of wizards.
So
I have heard it said.
So true. I read that somewhere.
Prospero is not kind to Ferdinand. Now, we kind of know why, because the king of Naples was part of his overthrow, but this also seems to surprise Miranda. Miranda's aside is, "Why speaks my father so ungently?" This is out of character, it sounds like, for him, but he's definitely laying it on pretty heavy against Ferdinand and essentially takes him as prisoner.
Yeah, Miranda does beg kindness and gentleness for him, and Prospero, in much more Shakespearean lovely words, says no.
Yeah. We also again see the power of Prospero on here, because Ferdinand is a young guy and he's got a sword on him. And again, going to the stage directions, it says he draws and is charmed from moving. Anytime in this book where it talks about a character drawing, that's referring to drawing their sword. So Ferdinand's ready to, go into combat here, but he's frozen. He cannot move against the power of Prospero.
And so he is bound like Caliban to serve. He the menial labor. And Prospero here is where he promises Ariel to free him. He says, "Thou shalt be as free as mountain winds, but then exactly do all points of my command." And Ariel says, "To the syllable."
To the syllable. And thus ends Act 1. Congratulations, you've made it through the first act of
Yay!
The Tempest.
The act switch, always I feel like the characters change.
Mhm.
So, exeunt, all those people left. Now we're in another part of the island, and here we have a bunch of names, but it's the King of Naples, Alonso, his Duke, Sebastian. Antonio's now the acting Duke of Milan. He is the brother. He's the brother who sent his own brother, outcast to this island. Then Gonzalo, the honest counselor, and then some others. So
Adrian and Francisco, who are just other lords. And to clarify, Sebastian, so Alonso, King of Naples, Sebastian is his brother, like Antonio is Prospero's brother.
And this scene, this man, Alonso, believes his son and heir has died. The ship broke up. He is gone. He believes emphatically that he is dead in the ocean. And Gonzalo keeps trying to make him feel better. And he keeps talking and talking. And Alonso says, "Please be quiet. Please be quiet."
He does.
And he won't be quiet.
And the wordplay here is so sharp and so witty back and forth. And this is one that I think if you saw it, it would jump out more, because you have these different characters talking to each other and past each other and around each other, which is pretty hard to track when you're just reading through the text. But if you saw it on stage, it would make sense how tightly this is written and how complex the interactions and the conversation is. And again, going back to the words, there were some things in here that really surprised me. I'm just going to read a couple lines here. So Gonzalo says to Alonso, "When every grief is entertained that's offered, comes to the entertainer," and then he's interrupted by Sebastian, who says, $1, which seems kind of rude.
It does seem rude.
And then Gonzalo makes a play on that, and he says, "Dolor," sorrow, comes to him indeed. You have spoken truer than you proposed. So it's again this way of flipping words on end and just playing with it as they go through. And you get to see here too the different hearts of the different characters. King Alonso in grief. Sebastian doesn't care about anything. He's just cracking a joke. Gonzalo trying to comfort and aid his king. And so you get this picture of these people through this wordplay. The other thing that struck at me here as I read this was I saw the word a dollar, and I thought, what? Dollars. Did they have dollars in England? England's never had dollars for money. They had pounds and pence and shillings. Where on earth did this dollar come in several centuries ago?
I think they might have, but it's not the same.
I studied it. I figured it out.
Okay.
So a dollar was actually a silver coin,
There
a
you go.
heavy silver coin that was used at the time from which our modern word comes. So the Spanish pieces of 8, the Spanish real that got cut into 8 pieces, that was a dollar. So it's not a common word, but it does show up here, and I found it also shows up in Macbeth. But that one blew my mind for a little bit. Like, what? Does somebody translate this into
George
modern?
Washington on it? What?
But then they made the pun into dollar, so it had to be there. And anyways, I just thought that was fun.
Yeah, I think money has a lot of evolutions where one culture uses it, it's broken into another, kind of like language. It tracks through. So yeah, this whole thing, Gonzalo is a very burdensome comforter. He's so wordy. He just keeps talking. And Sebastian and Antonio, the other two, they're very flippant. They start very just they're mocking in general, like a dollar, right? Jumping in while this man is grieving. I mean, you get the characters just from this conversation, because that's what this is. It's a very busy conversation between the different people on scene here. And my book is wonderful, actually. It points out a lot of those puns and proverbs, because they do use a lot of things that people at the time would have known, would have been familiar to them. It would have been that wordplay. You know, there's some that we pick up on and some we just don't.
Through this scene, as you said, we do learn about the different characters. We learn what they were doing on the journey, that they were on the boat in the first place because the king had just married off his daughter to the king of Tunis. The king apparently only has 2 kids, Ferdinand and Claribel. His daughter, well, his daughter is now in Tunis. She's got a life down there now, and then he believes Ferdinand to be dead. This gets Sebastian and Antonio talking, and particularly Antonio is talking to Sebastian, the brother of Alonso, and he asks the question, then tell me, who's the next heir of Naples? Because if Alonso has no children and Alonso dies, his brother becomes king, Sebastian. Antonio has had no qualms about kicking his own brother out and taking power. And so here he begins suggesting this to Sebastian.
Yeah, before they get there, the king he's tired of them talking. He says, "You cram these words into mine ears against the stomach of my sense." And then he says, "Would I had never married my daughter there in Tunis, because that is where they lost their son on the return journey." And here's where they fall asleep. And so that conversation between the new Duke of Milan, the one who...
The
usurper brother, and Sebastian, who would be king without an heir, this happens while they're asleep. And so those flippant mockers turn suddenly into potential murderers.
And they plan to do it. It's pretty clear here. Sebastian says that yeah, you do it. He tells Antonio to kill the king, one thrust, and then you'll have the king's gratitude. Antonio, in response, says, okay, you kill Gonzalo, who is sleeping there as well.
Yeah, the loyal servant. But here is where our friendly, helpful fairy shows up, invisible, but with music and song. And here he sings in Gonzalo's ear and says, "My master through his art foresees the danger that you, his friend, are in." Because Gonzalo was the honest man who helped them when they were leaving Naples, when they sent off from Naples. And sends me forth, for else his project dies, to keep them living. So he sings, he wakes up Gonzalo, that wakes up the group. And so this treacherous murder cannot happen at that time.
And what we get throughout this play when Ariel steps in is this, again, leading people somewhere else. So sending them into the island in different places, often stopping them from doing something that's against the will of Prospero, and then sort of delaying them until they can show up again at a later time in the play. We already saw it with Ferdinand, where Ariel drew Ferdinand to Prospero and Miranda, and here we see it with the king and the nobles, that Ariel is doing this.
Yeah, I like how Gonzalo wakes up. He says, "Now, good angels, preserve the king." So he's a little suspicious now because he says, "Upon mine honor, sir, I heard a humming, and a strange one too, which did wake me. I shaked you," he's talking to the king. "I shaked you, sir, and cried. As mine eyes opened, I saw their weapons drawn. There was a noise. Verily, 'tis best we stand upon our guard, and that we quit this place. Let's draw our weapons."
Mm-hmm.
So they are then protected through the work of Ariel, which stems back through Prospero. This whole time, he's kind of this puppet master.
Yeah, masterminding this entire thing.
Although clearly, Ariel can act on his own initiative too. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, Ariel's a great character. I mean, not only a faithful servant, but also clever and witty and resourceful. And so there's some things here that we're going to see that Prospero was very fortunate to have such a servant as Ariel.
It ends with Ariel speaking and says, "Prospero, my lord, shall know what I have done. So, king, go safely on to seek thy son."
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Then we move into Act 2, Scene 2. And this one's fun because this is Caliban, who is the villain, sort of the piece, but it's also Trinculo, the fool.
The fool.
The jester of the court, and Stefano, the drunken butler.
Caliban is, I think, very representative of vice and evil, but he also doesn't have any power this whole time. So he is bad, but he has no power to act on it. And he's partnered up with the fool and the drunken butler. So it is a comedy, not a tragedy.
Yeah. But the fool and the drunken butler have saved something from the ship. They have the wine. They have the booze, and they are deep in their cups when they meet Caliban. But they also give some to Caliban, and Caliban loves this. He loves the wine, and through it, this divine drink, he promises to serve them.
I like Stefano's tune. He says, "This is a scurvy tune too, but here's my comfort." And he drinks, and he's shoving wine down Caliban's throat. I mean, this is not gentle treatment, but apparently Caliban is not familiar with wine. And yes, he makes a king of this drunk guy walking around with a bottle of wine.
He says of the two, "These be fine things, and if they be not spirits, that's a brave god, and bears celestial liquor, I will kneel to him."
This is very grand. Wow. And Trinculo, it's a fun name. Trinculo. He's the jester. And throughout, again, it's a conversation where he is just interjecting with great little, again, proverbs and just familiar witticisms that people then would have found very funny. Like it's a strange but lighthearted scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trinculo is hiding because there's thunder rumbling. The storm is still going, apparently. So when the drunk butler walks up, he thinks it's an animal with 4 legs because you got Caliban's legs sticking out one side and Trinculo out the other, but they don't know they're there. It's silly. The whole thing is silly. It's funny.
And this is the line you had said that puppy was a word invented by Shakespeare. Here's the line here from Trinculo. "I shall laugh myself to death at this puppy-headed monster, a most scurvy monster. Puppy-headed monster."
They do call him a monster a lot. He must be a very just visually terrible person. I have never seen a version of this. Have you ever seen someone do
No.
Caliban?
No, I haven't. I know there have been many versions. There's been movies of this, but no, I've never seen one.
How they describe it, and apparently it never bothers Caliban at all because he's willing to like worship this guy even though he calls him mean names. I think he doesn't look like a man. I think he looks like a monster, literally.
Yeah, so Caliban, again, is in their service now. He wishes to serve them. He says, "I prithee, let me bring thee where crabs grow, and I with my long nails will dig thee pig nuts, show thee a jay's nest, and instruct thee how to snare the nimble marmoset. Wilt thou go with me?"
"Oh, brave monster, lead the way." Excellent.
And NC Act 2.
Yeah, that one's funny. So then we're back at Prospero. They call his cell. I think that's where he lives, like his home, Prospero's cell. And so it's Ferdinand working. He's carrying wood. He's doing work, partly to impress Miranda, partly because Prospero's magic.
He
And
happens to be flexing a little
yeah,
as
I
he's
think so.
lifting the log. Yeah, totally.
Enter Miranda and Prospero behind, unseen. I mean, it is very specific here. So this is an interaction between Miranda and Ferdinand, but Prospero's watching. He wants to see this relationship develop, but based on something, because, it's been like an hour.
Yeah, right.
Let's have some substance here.
Yeah, but I mean, they hit it off right away. Miranda's heart goes out to this guy working and offers to do the labor herself.
She says, if you will sit down, I'll bear your logs the while. Pray give me that. I'll carry it to the pile. And Ferdinand, no, precious creature. I'd rather crack my sinews, break my back, than you should such dishonor undergo while I sit lazy by. I mean, they are smitten.
Yeah, and this keeps going back and forth, back and forth. And as you said, Prospero is watching the whole thing. Fair encounter of two most rare affections. Heavens rain grace on that which breeds between them. So he's into this. It's a good match for his daughter. He's not opposed, but again, he's not going to let her go away easily, and he doesn't want this to be a flippant thing. So this is his trial, his testing of Ferdinand.
And so at this end, they promise to meet in a little while. And Prospero ends the scene. I won't read the whole thing here, but he says, all to my book, for yet ere supper time must I perform much business appertaining.
Yeah, because the two of them have just agreed to marry. So, I mean, Miranda leaves with my husband then, and Ferdinand, I, with a heart as willing as bondage, era of freedom, here's my hand.
And mine with my heart in it. I mean, they are serious. And the to my book is an interesting phrase. I mean, that is, at the beginning, he says that's the source of his knowledge and power. So here, I think it just indicates his plotting.
Yeah.
How to bring it all together.
And I love this because, this speaks to the medievalist in me, this idea of the power of books, the power of words. This is where it comes from. So where is he going to go? To his book.
It reminded me of Voyage of the Dawn Treader when they're on the island where Lucy looks in the book, where it does have great power, but she uses it for ill. Not even wittingly. She kind of knew. Aslan's like, you knew.
He growls at her to stop her from making a big mistake.
Yeah. But that's it, that there's power in books, and whether you choose to use them for good or ill, I mean, that is an important choice.
That's such a great scene, because that's also the scene with the monopods, the duffers, who I love.
I do love
and
the duffers.
Is that Koryakin's island?
The star.
Yeah, the star who has been punished to be, so we meet others. That's such a great book. Anyways, going back to the...
So the next scene, we're back to Caliban, Stefano, and Trigulo, and now they are all fairly drunk. They've had much wine. But here Caliban hatches a plot, because he does have some darkness in his heart, and he does get physically tortured by Prospero. We know, and I think that's why he has such a dark backstory, because it's excusable in that way, but it's pretty bad. He wants out. And he apparently has taken this man as his master, and he puts out the idea that you could kill Prospero.
Yeah. There's a time where he sleeps. He will show you to him when he sleeps, and all you have to do is kill him. At least get rid of his books. At least get rid of his books, because, again, that's where the power comes from in Caliban's mind.
Yeah, and he sells it that then you would be lord of this island. And, oh, by the way, he has a beautiful daughter.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
Yeah, it's not great. But Ariel, again, the good fairy of the air, shows up invisible, and he intercedes. He jumps into this conversation as an extra voice. I love this in plays and stories when somebody, kind of like the trolls in The Hobbit,
That's
right?
what it reminded me of.
Somebody jumps in, Gandalf jumps in with the extra voice, and then they get mad at each other. That happens here too. Ariel chimes in with, thou liest. And then Trinculo gets in trouble.
Yeah, he gets hit. Stefano smacks him.
The fool gets in trouble for Ariel chiming in. But he's trying to intervene in this plot to kill his master, Prospero.
Now, Act 3, Scene 3, and in many ways, this is kind of a culminate. This is a big part of this play. What did you get out of this? What happens here?
So these men, we're back with the king and his dukes. And we know now that a couple of them are willing to murder their king, but we also know that Gonzalo's on his guard because Ariel had woken him up and drawn their swords. But Alonso's still grieving. But suddenly, this banquet appears before them. I mean, in my mind, it is complete and elaborate. And these men are walking around after this storm, wet and hungry. And this beautiful banquet shows up.
Yeah, this banquet, this table, this wonderful thing in the middle of nowhere. These men are shipwrecked, they're hungry, and so 3 of them decide they're going to approach this table. And the 3 that are going to approach it are Alonso, Sebastian, and Antonio. That's quite a collection of 3. Those 3, these guys are not good guys.
No, they have betrayed family.
This is another one where they come up to the table, though, and I love the stage directions because it says, I'm just going to read this. Alonso, Sebastian, and Antonio approach the table. Thunder and lightning. Ariel descends like a harpy, claps his wings upon the table, and with a quaint device, the banquet vanishes. Doesn't it really make you wonder what the quaint device that they use to make the banquet vanish?
I just assume quaint was not what I think of as quaint. Because quaint to me is like something cute and sweet. Quaint.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he had.
I don't think so, but I love to think about it. What was the device they used? What was the stagecraft they used to make that go away?
Yeah, I wrote down the first bit of Ariel's line here because it is convicting. He says, "You are 3 men of sin." At this beautiful table that they walk up to, and then suddenly it goes dark, thunder and lightning. You are 3 men of sin.
They are judged right there.
Yes.
Can we talk about harpies for a moment?
Well, you can. I did not look up harpies.
I'm excited about this because this whole scene is just classic for harpies. If you're into Greek literature, it just screams harpy as it comes up. So the first encounter with harpies I ever came across was from Jason and the Argonauts. Jason is that great Greek hero who went out to search for the golden fleece. In a lot of ways, this was kind of like the original Avengers. There was this collection of these ancient Greek heroes that included huge names like Hercules, like Orpheus. I mean, massive. The Dioscuri, who are the twin brothers Castor and Pollux, the Gemini. I mean, these are huge names, and they were just members of the crew of the Argo. So Jason and the Argonauts is this legendary quest, but on one of the islands, they meet the Harpies. Boy, the Greeks did cursing better than just about anyone. There was this king named Phineas who was on this island, and the island was laid with a sumptuous table full of food. But anytime he would try to go near it, these harpies would descend, and in some versions of the story, they would eat all the food. In other versions, they would just foul all the food so it couldn't be consumed. And this is harpies, a table on an island in the middle with food, but it cannot be eaten because of a curse or a judgment. And that's just, yes, is what we see here. And then we see it again in Virgil's Aeneid. So that was Greek. The Aeneid is Latin, and this is the great epic about the founding of Rome. This is a masterful piece, but as Aeneid is traveling through the islands, he comes across a table laden with food that he cannot eat because of the harpies who come down upon it. And he describes the harpies, and I just want to read this quote from the Aeneid where he describes what they look like. Plague and anger of the gods raised itself out of the Stygian waves. The birds' faces are young women's. Most hideous is their stomachs, oozing, and their hooked hands, and always pale with hunger, their faces. So they're horrible creatures. They're terrifying and always related to this idea of food that can't be consumed, either because the harpies eat it or because they foul it. This is actually fun because in the Aeneid, the Harpies give a prophecy. This is a classic thing where the Harpies say, "You are cursed for coming here and trying to drive us away. You are going to be so hungry," because hunger is a big part of what they do. "You are going to be so hungry that you will not reach your journey's end until you are so hungry that you eat your own tables." Well, that seems ominous. Of course, it ends up not being a big deal at all because they decide that the flat pieces of bread that they hold their food on are actually tables,
Mm.
and they eat that, and then they're all good and they're in Rome. Things work out for Aeneas.
The trencher counts?
The trencher counts, at
Okay.
least to the Harpies. But isn't that awesome that that's all brought into this scene with the table and the food and the judgment and the Harpies? Is brilliant. Shakespeare's a master.
I can't commend anything that has bellies oozing. That's gross. But I do like the overlap of story, especially because Prospero is a man of books.
Yeah.
He read his books.
Yeah. Well, and I guarantee he read the Aeneid.
Yeah, for sure. Probably Jason and the Argonauts, too.
Probably he did. Yeah.
I knew he was a
He
J.
definitely knew the stories, I'm sure. At the beginning, when we first meet Caliban, we talked about the fact that Prospero had powers, that he had the power to inflict torment. And that comes in here because as these lords run from this table that disappears, they are inflicted with torment. Alonso is inflicted with madness, and the others, it sounds like they get that pinching, right? It's as if these spirits are consuming them and coming in upon them. And so the lords flee from this judgment.
And it says after when Ariel disappears, the harpy disappears, that he vanishes in thunder, and then soft music enter the shapes again. So these are the shapes that set the table to begin with. And they dance with mocks and mows, M-O-W-S, and they carry out the table and the food. And mine has a note, mocking gestures and grimaces. Mocks and mows. So they taunt even as they depart with this table.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really dark and beautiful, in and out. For a scene change, that would be so cool. I would love to watch this one.
It would be very good. And that takes us through scene 3, and then that takes us through act 3, and then we come to act 4. Act 4, scene 1, I'll confess, I find this confusing. I think this is one I would have to watch to really kind of get it. It begins very gently. Prospero is no more Mr. Mean Guy.
To his daughter, yeah.
Yeah, so he gives Ferdinand and Miranda permission to marry, but he also makes it clear that until they are married, Ferdinand is to behave himself.
Yeah, Prospero says, "Then as my gift and thine own acquisition, worthily purchased, take my daughter." So he gives Ferdinand his daughter in promise to marry. And then it is a strange scene. I actually read something that this play was done early on for a prince and a princess, basically betrothed, and that they think this was added in as something where it's basically a mosque. It's this ritual performance of basically approval of a marriage, blessing a marriage. Mm-hmm. It says, you do this right and you will be blessed. You do this wrong and you will be cursed.
That's interesting, where this might have been added in for the second performance. The first performance of this, I believe, was on All Saints' Day for James I. James I of England, James VI of Scotland. And the marriage, this got brought back it was for Elizabeth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thought. I had not come across that.
It was just a theory that was added in, because it is kind of plonked in. It's either to make it longer, but it is fairly beautiful. So Juno descends, and Ceres descends, and Iris. I mean, this is this pageantry performed for them that, in essence, sanctions their future marriage for Ferdinand and Miranda, blesses it in future.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It ends rather abruptly, though. I mean, there's all this poetry, and then all of a sudden, it's like Prospero remembers, oh, yeah, Caliban wanted to kill me. Let's get him.
Yeah, and he's like, away with you all. I have to deal with this.
It is abrupt.
I mean, it is a play. It's theatrical. Where suddenly, we're done with this. You go. Yeah. Yeah, Miranda says, talking about her father, never till this day saw I him touched with anger so distempered. I mean, this is really the culmination of all his plans and things. It would be frustrating to know that the dark slave thing you've kept in the corner is about to undo it all. Be like, okay, I got to deal with this thing.
Mhm. Which fortunately he knows about because Ariel heard the whole plot. And so he is ready to take care of this. It's kind of funny though, because Trinculo and Stefano and Caliban, they come to his cell and they're like, oh, cool clothes.
Yeah.
They start stealing things, like snatching things. This reminds me a little bit of like Pirates of the Caribbean, where the pirates are like stealing the dresses and things and wearing
Yeah,
them.
the jester says, oh, basically robes for a king, and Stefano is going to be the king of this island. So they do. And Caliban's like, no, don't get distracted. We need to kill him, and you need to take his books first. So Prospero and Ariel are ready for these men, though. But it does say that when Caliban enters with these men, that they're all wet. They're wet from this storm anyway, so they needed some clothes. And these are nice. And they're drunk.
So they take them, but then fury descends upon them. This is Prospero's line. Fury, fury, their tyrant there, hark, hark. And he says to Ariel, go, charge my goblins that they grind their joints with dry convulsions, shorten up their sinews with egged cramps, and more pinch-spotted make them than pard or cattle mountain. That's rough.
Yeah, let them be hunted soundly. Oh. He means business right now.
That's right. And they leave.
And they leave. Excellent. Yes. So now we are to Act 5, and this is the ending of it all, where it all either comes wrong or comes right together. So we're still in front of Prospero's cell, but now he is in his robes,
Mm-hmm.
and he is with Ariel. And he asks him a question, and he says, now does my project gather to a head? How's the day? I like this question. How's the day?
Yeah.
And Ariel reports back on where the men are. So the king and his dukes and the conviction that he confronted them with. How's it going? How's the day?
It is so good. A few more lines down, again, there's another stage direction, which the stage directions are cool. It says, Prospero draws a circle with his staff. And this is where we start to see his end game. He has planned this kind of revenge punishment. He has set up a marriage for his daughter. We're going to see how he gets his kingdom back. But this is where we start to see that he's not planning on keeping his power. This magic that he has on this island with this circle, he's planning on giving this up. And this is really the first place that I think we see this. This is also tying into the releasing of Ariel. So he's going to release Ariel. He's promised him to do it. But part of that coincides with this giving up of this magical power he has.
Yeah, Ariel does respond about the men that he says, the tears of the king, King Alonso, his tears run down his beard like winter's drops from eaves of reeds. Your charm so strongly works them, that if you now beheld them, your affections would become tender. Ariel's not even a man.
Well, that's this next great line from that. Prospero answers, dost thou think so, spirit?
And Ariel says, mine would, sir, were I human.
Oh, that's so good.
He doesn't have a heart in the same way. But Prospero, this man who has been wronged and banished with his daughter, at best banished, possibly killed, he says, and mine shall, my feeling shall, hast thou which art but air, a touch, a feeling of their afflictions, and shall not myself, one of their kind, that relish all as sharply. Passion as they, be kindlier moved than thou art. I don't know where to stop. It's so good.
Yeah. We can read the whole thing. It's so good.
Though with their high wrongs I am struck to the quick, yet with my nobler reason against my fury do I take part. The rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance. They, being penitent, the sole drift of my purpose doth extend not a frown further. Go, release them, Ariel. My charms I'll break, their senses I'll restore, and they shall be themselves.
Yeah, here is where we see truly the virtue and the greatness of this man. He is not out for vengeance. He is out to draw penitence. And when penitence occurs, which it has and does, he is willing to forgive. And that is just nobility of spirit and character that you don't always see.
And he gives the son of his enemy his daughter. his daughter whom he loves. I mean, it is really beautiful and very well done.
And this is kind of how it wraps up. There's a meeting between all these people. So Alonso shows up, and Prospero frees him from his madness. He takes away the madness that was upon him. Antonio, who's been pinched, he forgives. His brother who usurped him, he forgives. Sebastian is dealing with these inward pinches, and he forgives him too. And Prospero changes his costume. He changes from the magical robes into the dress of the Duke of Milan, which is really who he is. And in this dress, Alonso begs forgiveness. He embraces Gonzalo and thanks him for what he did. And I love too that he makes sure that Sebastian Antonio knows that he's on to them. These were the two that were plotting to kill the king, and he tells them, aside to Sebastian and Antonio, "But you, my brace of lords, were I so minded, I here could pluck his highness' frown upon you and justify you traitors. At this time, I will tell no tales." So we see that he's not a dupe. He's forgiving, but he also still has statecraft, the ability to lead and manage and navigate this pack of wolves that is royalty. And I think this shows growth in Prospero from the beginning. When he was the Duke of Milan at the beginning, he was interested in all this learning and books and things, but he neglected rule. He neglected the ability to actually lead and rule his people. Now he's got that. He's got the ability to navigate these political scenarios, but he also has all this wisdom he's got from the books. And so I think that's really, really cool.
Yes, they have been warned. And Alonso still sad. He still thinks his son is dead. And I think Prospero opens a window onto his cell. And they're so cute, Ferdinand and Miranda. They're playing chess. Yeah. And she accuses Ferdinand of cheating. It's great. It's a very human thing to do. Like how the bard conveys character. It's very consistent. I mean, how he can portray such different individuals so well throughout. They're playing chess. How cute are they?
I love that this is such a happy ending. So much of Shakespeare is not. So Alonso gets his son back. Ferdinand and Miranda are together. Prospero gets his dookie back. I mean, everything kind of comes all right. And even the sailors. So this ship that we saw was splitting up, that was falling apart. No, that wasn't happened. The ship is safe. The sailors are safe. They've been enchanted by Ariel, and now they all show up in order to take the people back to civilization.
And probably my favorite bit is that Ariel is freed.
And Ariel is freed.
It is the complete package.
Yeah. Ariel is given one last duty, one last task. He is to make sure they have good winds and fair seas for their journey. And with that, he is set free by his master.
And actually, Caliban even has kind of a twist there where he realizes he was foolish to follow a fool.
Yeah. I will, and I'll be wise hereafter, and seek for grace. What a thrice double ass was I to take this drunkard for a god, and worship this dull fool.
That is the happy ending, kind of for all. It's wonderful. We don't witness the marriage here between the two, but they're going to go back to Naples, and they will have fair seas the whole way. I mean, it's really just completed that way. But this one is different, I think, than other plays in that it does have a spoken epilogue by a character. Prospero gives us an epilogue, and I do think we should talk about it, and then let's wrap up that way.
Mm-hmm.
I say that way. So we mentioned earlier, this is thought to be one of Shakespeare's final plays, the final one he wrote perhaps by himself. And this very much is a goodbye. It's very beautiful in how it's done. What did you think of it?
I loved it because what we see here is Prospero has given up his magic. He's given up his power, his ability to control things, to create things, to move these things. And in this epilogue, what you're going to hear is that power being given to the audience. He's going to beg the audience to send him away, to fill his sails so that he can go on this journey to reunion and happiness. This is not a power he has anymore because he's given it up and put it into the hands of the audience. Yeah, how much is that Shakespeare, right? He has had this power for so long, and he's towards the end, and now it's time to give it up, and it's in the hands of the audience to do with what they will.
Yeah, I actually got a Beowulf kind of pairing with this because it's two leaders who had strength and ability and they're letting go. Like this is a letting go of the life that they lived, but up to this point. And so the line I took from Beowulf, what has been will be lost. Okay, it's ending. This chapter is ending. And in The Tempest, Prospero says, but this rough magic I here abjure.
Yeah.
You know, it's a giving away and a giving back of this thing that has been who they are as leaders, as men, but it's fading to something new.
Now my charms are all o'erthrown, and what strength I have mine's own, which is most faint. Now 'tis true, I must be here confined by you, or sent to Naples. Let me not, since I have my dukedom got, and pardon the deceiver, dwell in this bare island by your spell, but release me from my bands, with the help of your good hands. Gentle breath of yours my sails must fill, or else my project fails, which was to please. Now, I want spirits to enforce, art to enchant, and my ending is despair, unless I be relieved by prayer, which pierces so that it assaults mercy itself and frees all faults. As you from crimes would pardon be, let your indulgence set me free. And the last stage direction, it's actually in the book. He awaits applause, then exit. And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.
Hello, friends, and thank you so much for listening to the Good Stories podcast. We've got something new and exciting to share. We've launched a Patreon page. If you've been enjoying the show and want to show support, this is a great way to be a part of it. As a subscriber, you get access to exclusive content, some bonus stories, some conversations that dive a little deeper into history or philosophy, and even an occasional gift in the mail from us. Your support, as little as $5 a month, also helps keep the pages turning literally by helping us find new books and better gear for future episodes. But more than anything, we're hoping to grow a community of people who love good stories as much as we do. We've got some fun plans for the future, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. You'll find the Patreon link in the episode show notes if you want to check it out. And no matter what, from all of us here, thank you so much for listening. If you ever have questions, ideas, or just want to say hello, you can always reach us at goodstoriespodcast@gmail.com or by leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being a part of the story.